Hello everyone, my name is Joshua. This is the 82nd video of my video journal series. Today's date is Friday, the 31st of April, 2026. How's everyone been? I've been pretty good, thank you. And something I want to discuss with you today is grocery stores. Now you might be saying, well Josh, you didn't really do a video on, I guess, going to the shops. And I did do a video about that a couple of months ago. But I want to focus specifically on that experience where you go to a grocery store or shop, or even it can just be any store, electronics store, but it always happens in grocery stores where you just want to go buy one thing, but then you end up staying in the grocery store for like 12 hours or something. That's an exaggeration, but it feels like 12 hours because you're going through all the aisles just trying to find one thing, and you cannot find that thing, but you walk out with 10 other things, essentially. It always happens. Like, I go in, just want to buy this one little thing. You have to go through all the aisles because, it's different amongst grocery stores, Like, if you want to, I don't know, grab let's say, a bag of chips, right? Well, at Coles, it could be an aisle in the middle aisle, sort of, But at Woolies, it could be towards the end, if you know what I mean. So let's say there's like 10 aisles in a grocery store, right? Usually aisle 4 is all the confectionery and chips, all those like snacks, I guess. But in some grocery stores, they might put all the snacks at the back end. Some grocery stores, they put it towards the front, near the entrance. So it really depends. Like, that's why I just like going to my local grocery store, because I know where everything is. And if I go to like a foreign grocery store or a grocery store where unfamiliar with, basically. It's just really hard, and I hate it when they label like chocolate as confectionery. It just like grinds my gears because I'm like, why can't you just name it chocolate? Every grocery store's different. Some of them they name it confectionery, some name it chocolate, some just put it in the chips aisle and call it a day. Like, have some consistency, right? We should have like some form of consistency when it comes to just the grocery store layout. I know some grocery stores are bigger than others, but like, why don't we just have a single layout where it's like aisle 1 is all like the necessities, and then slowly as you go on, aisle 10 is like all the toilet paper and books and stuff that I guess you don't get a whole lot in grocery stores. I mean, obviously you get like toilet paper, paper towels, and all that, but you know, maybe on a less frequent basis. Like books or like stationery or stuff like that. And I know sometimes they design like grocery stores in like a way that, you know, they try to like lure you in by putting all the good stuff at the front, or the stuff like grabs your attention, sort of. And I've definitely felt that before. Where they put like all the sales at the front, because obviously you would have put the sales at the back. That just seems a little bit stupid. You want it where it's visible. You know, and whenever I go to like Woolies or Coles or whatever, just trying to find the aisle where they got those pre-made sandwiches is always a hurdle. They're always like in, that same aisle with like all the fresh fruit and veg. Because those at least here in Australia, Coles, Woolworths, they have like these pre-packaged sandwiches and meals and all that I like getting. Um, and there's some Woolies that I walk into, like the smaller metro stores, where they got everything like, you know, in a sensible order, because those Woolworths metro stores are basically like mini supermarkets. So um, they design things in a way where they put all the pre-made meals near the front of the door, because they're like in city areas, so people like to grab stuff for lunch and all that. That's why I know that whenever I go to like a Woolies Metro or Coles Local, whatever you like to call it, I always know where their sandwich aisle is, because it's like right at the front of the store. But whenever you go to like a conventional grocery store or like a bigger Woolworths store, for instance, always just trying to find where they keep their sandwiches is just a pain. I always miss it. Usually, like, it's near towards the front of the store, but sometimes it could be like in one of those refrigerators. Honestly, it just, the location of things within grocery stores just varies, even if it's the same chain. One Woolies in one suburb can differ to another one in another suburb or in a different location. But it's not like aisle four or aisle five or aisle six is completely the same amongst those stores. Um, you know, and I guess like I like to hear your experience about it. Like assuming a grocery store has like 10 aisles, what would you assume will be in each aisle? Like aisle number one, you assume will be the most common stuff, and then aisle number four, I always associate with chips and confectionery. I don't know why. Aisle four always seems like that snack aisle. Then aisle 10 is always like the toilet paper aisle, if you know what I mean. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like that's how I view it at least. And you got all the frozen food in like aisle 10 as well. But yet again, this varies amongst um, grocery stores. And I know I've gotten into a rant about grocery stores, but I swear it's just super annoying whenever you go to a grocery store. You just want to grab one thing, and there's like no staff members around, so you're like, all right, I have to walk through the aisles, in like a zigzag pattern, and then um, you finally get what you initially went into the grocery store for. You just finally like say, oh, there's that packet of peanut M&Ms finally. And then you realize you got like $100 worth of stuff that you don't need, and you're like, oh, I'll grab it for later. But yeah, and it also same thing applies to Bunnings. I think Bunnings is the worst case offender for wanting to go in to find one thing, but you walk out with like 20 other things, or you just spend like half your day just trying to find a specific thing. The fact that there's, I guess limited staff on the floor because, obviously, Bunnings stores are huge, so they're not going to have like a staff member in every single aisle. But yeah, like going into Bunnings is just like, good luck. It's like going into a Westfield or IKEA. It's such a like a big place, and there's so much stuff on the shelf, and you're just like after one little item. But at least like their wayfinding around the store's pretty okay. Um, and you can always like I guess go to the front desk, but they're like, oh yeah, just go right at the back end of the store, aisle number 25, and as soon as you get above like 10 or whatever, like that's a red flag, if you know what I mean. That got me thinking, do like stores, like do they only do aisles 1 through 10 and they just stop at 10? Because all the stores I've been to, or most of the stores I've been to, apart from like Bunnings and all that, usually whenever have like number aisles, they usually just stop at 10. Even if they got more aisles, they don't like label them, they just label it like um instead of letters, they sorry, instead of numbers, so they do it as letters. So instead of like 11, they'll do like A, B, C. I always wondered why do they stop at like 10? um or around there. They don't get up to like 20. I guess it could be due to the size of the store, but at the same time, yeah, it is a little bit weird how most stores like cut off around 10 or 11, and then they just use like their own, um, you know, system, I guess. Like they just do it alphabetically, or they might, just say, oh, we'll call this section of the store the corner. We'll call it the media aisle or something like that. And speaking of media, most of JB Hi-Fi stores now are removing their physical media. I walked into a JB Hi-Fi store recently, and yeah, I went to their physical media section, and I can just see like most of the stuff there is gone. Um, all their DVDs. Oh, yeah, vast majority of their DVDs, Blu-rays, pretty much all their CDs and vinyls, they've just taken out of the store, and now they're like online only. Um, and yeah, I was just like shocked, and now they're just putting like all pop culture stuff like manga and books and Monopoly boards, and I don't have a thing against that, but it is kind of like sad to see most of this physical media go. One of my fond memories of JB Hi-Fi. I mean, I still go there, but I guess now this will be a fond memory when you go and you just see like all the physical media on the shelf. DVDs, Blu-rays. It really gave you that like sense of variety, and I always liked it, because you always find like a good title, and it was just like, going into like a video store or going into like a place where, you know, you feel surrounded by the things that you like media, movies, TVs. I mean, TV shows. Obviously, I never went to a Blockbuster or Video Resi. I mean, I was too young for that. But at the same time, I feel like JB was sort of like the closest I could get, at least with their media section. They have like DVDs, Blu-rays, and CDs and vinyl. And yeah, most stores now they're just removing that, or at least they're like downsizing it heavily. And I know physical media isn't as popular as it used to be, but at the same time, um, yeah, it's just I guess that's how things change. That's I guess how time works. Some things become popular, then supply and demand. Not many people are buying physical media, so at least maybe that's what the company thinks. I mean, I still buy physical media, but at the same time, I think they want to shift towards the more of the pop culture stuff, kind of like EB Games. EB Games is now like 90% pop culture stuff and 10% video games. It's like it's really weird because they have like dedicated pop culture stores called Zing, Zing. Are those still around? I'm pretty sure they are still around, but they have like dedicated pop culture stores. So I'm like, why don't you just pull your pop culture stuff in there? And with EB Games, you just like sell games and all that. It is kind of weird, but I have seen sometimes like close down a Zing store, then they put in like an EB Games or whatever. It is weird, like that you have like a dedicated pop culture store, but at the same time, you also have a store which sells like majority of pop culture and then some video games. So with that pop culture store, I don't think they sell any video games. I don't know. It's really weird. And I think with EB Games, I know I mentioned uh, the topic of this video as grocery stores, but maybe I should just rename it to like, just I guess not the brick and mortar store experience. I've already done that. I guess you know, actually I can't really come up with a better title. It would just be practically grocery stores, but like a Vsauce video, this video will branch off the original, I guess, argument or main idea and will flow on. Anyway, so what was I saying? Oh yes, EB Games. So I think with EB Games, it's like pretty much I think the way they can survive, by just doing pop culture stuff, because obviously with their video game business, they rely heavily on used games, the buying and selling of used games. But even then, not many people are buying physical games. They're mostly doing online. So I can kind of see why EB Games is doing more of the pop culture stuff. Same thing with JB Hi-Fi. They have a lot more pop culture stuff now. By that I mean like stuff like Funko Pops, figurines, books, um, backpack, apparel, t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, and all that. Um, and yeah, like, oh man, what other examples can I think of? Um, yeah, and I don't really have a thing against that, but at the same time, I kind of miss when you went into a store and they just had like shelves and shelves of Nintendo Switch games. I remember on my phone a few years ago, I took a picture of the Nintendo section at a JB Hi-Fi store, and I'm glad I did. This picture would have been like 2021, I think, or 2020, a couple of years ago. And I remember, like, in that picture, I still got it on my phone. It's just like a very large shelf of Nintendo Switch games. But now, whenever I go to my local JB Hi-Fi, um, there's like the Nintendo Switch 2 section at all the JB stores I've been to is like really small. It's like perhaps the size of like my cabinet that I have at home. That's how much shelf space there is for like a major home console. Back in the day, like 20 years ago, whenever there was like a new console launch, it would take up the entirety of the store. But now it's just like very, very small. I know these stores have other things to sell, but at the same time, I guess I should have mentioned this in my brick and mortar store experience, but I'll say here, I kind of miss the like in-store experience like that. Um, I feel like many places like in America, for instance, there many of their shopping malls are dying off. Same with their brick and mortar stores. Same here in Australia. I feel like that trend's slowly catching up. And I feel like if you know you want to revive the in-store experience, and you got to focus on that experience. It's like why people go to the movie theater. People don't go to the movie theater just solely to watch movies. I mean, by that I mean if you wanted to watch a movie that has been around for a couple of years, you wouldn't go to a movie theater and watch like a rerun or something, or just like say, "Hey, I'm bored today. Let's just um, go to the movie theater because that's my only way of watching movies." You most probably just bust out Netflix or a DVD or something like that, Blu-ray, or just really anything that you can play at home. But you go to the movie theater to watch movies when they come out because usually they are exclusive to theaters, or you just do it because of the experience. Watching films on the big screen, it's more about the experience, and I think that's why theaters, at least here in Australia, have been able to survive. I know in America, same thing applies, but I guess it can apply to everywhere in the world, really. And I guess that's what retail stores should be doing. And I guess certain places like grocery stores, they always have brick and mortar stores, because groceries are like an essential item where I guess not everyone has access to the internet. I know we live in 2026, but even then, like, we still need physical grocery stores, even if it might be a pain to find what you need in that physical grocery store, because, well, obviously it's an essential thing. Not everyone's going to wait for Amazon to ship baked beans to their house, or a meat pie. You just go to the grocery store, pick what you need, and that's it. And I quite like shopping at grocery stores towards, I guess, um, closing time, like at around 8 or 9 o'clock or something like that, because it's really got that silent atmosphere, and I just like it. It kind of reminds me of going to the konbinis in Japan, the mini convenience stores. I loved them, and those konbinis were actually quite navigatable because not only were they like small, but you knew where all the stuff was because the layout was pretty much all the same amongst every 7-Eleven, Family Mart, and all that. It's very intuitive. See, the Japanese get straight to the point. That's what we should do over here. Make a standard system for grocery stores. Um, yeah, and I guess to cap this video off. Oh man, what time? 11. All right. I guess to cap this video off. Yeah, I quite like the going to grocery stores and all that. But sometimes it can be irritating when you just want to go get one thing, but you can't find that specific thing, and you walk by, and then you finally find that thing, but then you realize you got like a bunch of other stuff with you, so that cost quickly racks up, especially now where grocery prices are. Excuse me, are pretty expensive, or they've gone up a lot. So yeah, I guess you know I guess it's something that will take a lot of time to improve upon, And if any, I guess, CEOs watching this, then please make a standard design for all your grocery stores. Aisle 4 should always be confectionery or just chocolate. Just put chocolate and chips. Aisle 4, the two C's, chocolate and chips. It'll make my life a lot more easier. And sometimes they don't even put like aisle names, or they don't like um, but can I pronounce my English correctly? Display them clearly. So it's just at that time of night, But yeah, I guess that'll be it. And like I said, I think grocery stores are here to stay. Obviously, a lot of people, I guess, growing amount of people are doing online shopping for the groceries, especially during COVID. And I think that was like the last time my family used online delivery for groceries, where you like um, pay for your groceries online, and then you have like someone bring it to your door. I think that was the last time we used it during COVID, but that was because we couldn't leave our homes. But I feel like nothing will beat the, I guess, in-store experience, especially just being able to like talk to someone in store and be able to grab what you need off the shelf. And I guess nowadays, one of the many ways that I guess stores are trying to survive, like EV games or JB Hi-Fi, is to more focus on, man, stuff that like I guess won't die out, like pop culture stuff. I guess like pop culture always maintain relevance within society, but I think they're trying to focus more on like books and board games, and I guess the safe bet, where um, stuff where it's kind of hard to explain. It's like stuff like board games and books and plush toys. Stuff there will always be demand of. Basically like clothing, for instance. That's another thing. Stuff where there'll be demand of. And like I said, if I guess pop culture merchandise keeps these stores alive, then I'm all for it. But at the same time, I like to, I guess, see more physical video games on shelves. I think EV Games has also started doing like retro games and all that. That's another way to keep business afloat. Apart from that, oh man, have I told this on the Video Journal series yet? EB Games are closing down all their stores in New Zealand. And fun fact, when I was in New Zealand December last year, I actually went inside an EB Games in Wellington. And I just looked around because I was like, oh, I wonder what EB Games is like in New Zealand. So I walked around the store for a bit. I didn't buy anything. But I remember they had retro games over there, like PS2 games, surprisingly. Um, so they were doing that, and I remember just walking out, going, "Oh, that was a nice experience." And then, a couple of months later, I was like, "Damn, all their stores in the country are shutting down." That would be like the last time I'll be able to go to a. Actually, that was the last time, and last possible time I was able to go to EB Games in New Zealand. And I guess it must kind of suck because now they've got to like import games from us. So any Kiwis watching this video, I'm sorry, but I guess that's another thing. Like with like it's just yeah, it's just weird to think that an entire chain just shutting down in a country. So if you want to buy physical games, you either have to go to like JB Hi-Fi New Zealand, or you just have to go to like another retailer. But that is like concerning to know because I guess that's why physical media. I guess why these stores are closing because the decline of physical media and all that. And I guess in some ways, um, you know, these stores closing down makes access to physical media a lot harder. So it's just going to push people more towards, I guess, digital stuff. But obviously, um, New Zealand still has Woolworths, which is very nice. The Woolies over there, they're pretty nice. And um, man, the layout of the Woolies store in New Zealand is pretty much like nearly identical to Australia, but they got like their own like regional items there, like their own like chip brand one with like the penguin on it. Um, those ones were really good, and I think I've told this on the video journal series. Before I go, I remember they had like there's like a chip flavor in New Zealand called like was it lamb? Yeah, they have lamb flavored chips in New Zealand. Lamb flavored chips. Now they were a very, very, very interesting food item. I remember it was like it wasn't terrible. It was actually very. I can't describe it. How lamb flavored chips taste like. It tastes like an intense version of barbecue mixed with a little bit of chicken. I don't know. It's really weird lamb flavored chips. Maybe if you're like a Kiwi or someone like that, like you might be used to it. But here in Australia, we like lamb, but I never had lamb flavored chips in Australia. But when I had it in New Zealand, I was like, huh, this is very like new to me. Until all sounds very new, but yeah, man, I've gone off tangent, but hey, it's a Friday night. Who cares? But anyway, yeah, that's my, I guess, opinion of grocery stores, and I kind of leaned a bit into, I guess, physical media and all that. And oh yeah, I forgot to give a wise piece of advice yesterday. I apologize about that. Um, so yeah, I guess I'll give you, instead of like two, I'll just give like one really good piece of wisdom before I leave, and that is, hmm, don't count the days, make the days count. Now, I'm not claiming to have come up with that quote. It's a very common quote. I don't know who came up with it, but I subscribe to it because I feel like in life, it's easy to lose track of the days, but you got to make the days count. Instead of sitting there just counting each day. Today's Monday, today's Tuesday. You got to make the days count. Like I said, treat every day as a fresh, new opportunity that you can take. Um, I think in that some way that beats procrastination and, feelings that, oh, this will take too long. I can't do this. Well, you can give it your best crack. Honestly, that's another golden piece of advice. Just give things your best crack, even if you don't know how to do it properly, or even if you think you might not be the best. Who cares? Just give it your best crack, because at the end of the day, um, you know, you're human. Um, but I think humans are essentially made to learn. Learning is a very crucial thing for humanity. And I'll say never stop learning, even when you're 80 years old or 100 years old. Never stop learning. Um, and part of that is just make the days count. If you got an assignment, then I guess don't underestimate how big a single day can be. So do a little bit of work each day, move all your stones as you go. That's like another analogy of mine. Move all your mini individual stones as you go. But yeah, just don't count the days, but make the days count. I think that was, I don't know who coined that term. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, before I fall asleep on camera, I guess this will be it. Yeah, bye. See ya. Take care. Have a great time, and I'll see you tomorrow.